Hello guys, it's Sam here. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well and you found my videos about navigating your portfolio as a psychiatry training helpful and very useful so far. If you haven't watched any of the previous videos, I'd recommend you watch them to help you navigate your portfolio. Okay. In this session, I'll be walking you through how to log in activities and also how to create assessment forms for your workplace-based assessments on your portfolio. Okay, so I'm going to share my portfolio now, which I've already signed in. And as you can already see, that is my portfolio. Okay, so you click on the portfolio tab. Once you click on the portfolio tab, it shows you activities. So we go on to click on activities, right? So to create a new activity, we'll click on this tab. That's new activity. Now, there are three things that you can log in here. So before you create a workplace-based assessment form, which could be a mini ACE, an ACE, a case-based discussion, whatever it is, what I found helpful was to initially create a log of the particular case that I encountered. Okay, first. So I just put up a summary of it, just a synopsis of the case that I use for my mini ACE or my ACE, or let's say journal club, case presentation, whatever it is, you can put a brief synopsis of it so that you can link it to your workplace-based assessment to create that connection. Okay, so after creating new activity, if we click on here, so backspace, it brings up all the possible forms or pro forma that you can use. So you've got a reflection form, you've got a case log form, you've got a supervision form. Reflection COVID-19 hasn't been too relevant. I've never had to use it throughout my training. So let's take, for instance, case log. Okay, so I click on case log here, okay, and then I create new activity. Again, on the case log form, you can override what's been written here. So for instance, you want to give your case a heading. So let's say you've seen someone with delirium, or you've seen an elderly person present with late onset psychosis. So you could just say, for instance, psychosis in an elderly patient. Okay, whatever title you want to give your case log form. Okay, and then obviously you put in the date you had your workplace-based assessment or when you saw the patient. You can decide to put an end date there, so it doesn't matter. Tags, I'll talk about that a bit later. And then over here, you put the age of the patient you saw. So let's say it's a 70-year-old female. And it's very important to make sure you don't put any identifiers in your portfolio. Okay, no patient identified. It should all be anonymized. Okay, anything that would breach data or breach confidentiality, please avoid that. Okay, so in the details here, you can put in a brief or just a summary of what you saw. So 70, so in here, 50-year-old, 70-year-old female, background of whatever, dementia, whatever it is that you saw, presented with ABC symptoms. Okay, I assessed as part of my workplace-based assessment. And then you can put a summary of your assessment. When you assess, was that was manic, was psychotic, what symptoms did they present with, and what you did. Okay, what you did. So something brief, just so that whoever is reviewing your workplace-based assessment has an idea of what patient you saw, and then can make sense of your grading in the workplace-based assessment. Okay, so just for the purposes of this video, okay, I'll just put here maybe background, sorry, background history of schizophrenia. Okay, presented with whatever you have, voice hearing experiences. Okay, something like this. Okay, you can do that, and then you can put in your what the assessment is. So all that. Okay. Then the next bit you put here, was this a normal working day? Was it out of hours? So let's say it was a normal working day. The gender of the patient, male, female. Others we could put female. Was it a mental health act? Was it an emergency? None of this. If you don't need to take any of this, if there's none of the options provided here. If it was a mental health act, you observed. You can click on this. If it was out of hours and was an emergency, you click on that. Okay. And then afterwards, you can submit. Sometimes you can save the draft and say you come back later to edit it. All right. I mean, even after you've submitted it, you can still edit the details. So let's just say we've submitted this. So there we go. I've created my case log form. Okay. And as you can see, I had to override the case log form. And then this is what comes up. Now it's got a feature here called a new follow-up. Okay. So if we click on the new follow-up, what this does is it links this case log. So let's say it was a mini ACE. It was a mini ACE. So my consultant observed me taking a history or performing a mental state exams. After creating this log, I'll go to new follow-up, go to assessment. Okay. Click on assessment. Then it comes here. Please select the standard that you wish to be assessed against. So if you're CT1, obviously you choose CT1, CT2, CT3, depending on your training level. So I just, for purpose of this video, I just say CT1. Please select assessment type. So these are the types of assessments, your workplace-based assessments. Okay. Workplace-based assessments. So you've got your mini parts. That's a mini peer assessment. So that's your 360 feedback. There's your assessment of clinical expertise. That is an ACE. Usually would be a full consultation. You'd be doing addictions as well. The college requires that you do about 2 case-based discussions on addiction. If you happen to do an addiction post, you can use that form as well. The assessment, the addiction ACE. Otherwise, you'd have to do a CBD, case-based discussion on addictions. And then you've got your case-based discussions, general case-based discussion. Your DOPS, that's the direct observation of procedural skills. So that would be your electroconvulsive therapy sessions. Okay, you can create a form for that using the DOPS. And then you've got your mini A's. So sometimes that would be just an aspect of your assessment. So it could just be performing a mental state exams or taking a focused history or discussing medications or treatment plan with the patient. Okay. So that's the clinical workplace-based assessments. When it comes to the non-clinical ones, so you've got your AOT, which is your assessment of teaching. So if you're involved in teaching undergraduates, medical students, other colleagues, you can have a senior colleague observe you. And then once you are done, they can complete an assessment of teaching form for you. Now, case presentation, you're required to do one every training year. Okay, so you present a case to your local teaching or in your team, whatever it is. Yeah. You've got your DONGs, that's your direct observation of non-clinical skills. So this could be for example, your letters, filling forms like DVLA, writing up reports like your tribunal reports. Okay, things like that fall under the DONGs. And then you've got your JCP, which I mentioned in my previous video, or your critical appraisal presentation. Okay. And so that's it for your non-clinical. And then when it comes to psychotherapy, so in your first year, generally in CT1, you tend to do balance group. At the end of each 6 months, your balance group supervisor would complete case-based discussion group assessment form. That will be for your balance group. As you progress, CT2, CT3, you'd be doing your long case, your short case psychotherapy. So it could be CBT, could be psychodynamic psychotherapy, okay, depending on your trust and what's available. Okay, so these forms would be completed by your supervisors. You have that's the PACE, that's the psychotherapy ACE. Complete a structured assessment of psychodynamic psychotherapy assessment. There's a SAPA, it's a SAPE, assessment of psychotherapy expertise. Okay, so usually your CBT would come in here. So um, in a nutshell, these are all the possible workplace-based assessment forms that can be completed. Now, so for the purpose of this video, we will select the mini A's. Okay, so I've created, and then I create an assessment. So there it goes. Created an assessment. So there you have it. You've got the curriculum level, which is CT1 assessment date, the day you had your assessment. When it comes here, it's a link, a clinical experience or activity. Now, because I've already created a log of a summary of the patient I saw, I can search here for that entry. So I think we could search elderly. And there we go. As you can see. So I just click on that. Can you see? So what it does is it just links everything nicely. So whoever is reviewing your workplace-based assessment form have an idea. Because sometimes you might send the form and your supervisor might complete it a bit later. They might, or whoever you're sending the form to might not really remember the details of what the assessment was about. So it is important you write up a summary of what the case was you used for your assessments. Ideally, these should be completed immediately after the assessment, but again, the pressures at work. Okay, so that is it. So we have that here. Now, this is the form that will be sent out to your supervisor or whoever is completing the mini A's. Okay, they are going to see this. It's a hyperlink for you because you're not meant to complete this. They'll fill all these bits here. And this is the form. It's got various sections. So your supervisor will be observing your professional relationships or anything that's relevant here to your assessment, and then they will determine. So that this is sort of like a scale, a Likert scale, um, and then it will determine whether you're working towards the expected standard for CT1, or whether you meet the expected standard, or you're above expected standard, or they're unable to comment. Okay, so this will be completed by your supervisor, and then they have got a free text here about anything that was good about your assessment. Um, these are and then areas where they think that you need to develop. Okay, and then the end actions for you to act on. So if it's about having to read more on how to perform mental state exams, whatever it is, your supervisor will fill that in here, and you use that to grade yourself, literally. See how best you are progressing. Okay. Now I just wanted to show you something here. So that'll be it here. This. Sorry, so that's view form. Okay, so we've created that now. Okay, it's not been sent yet, so I'm just going to show you how that's going to be sent. So if you go to assessments, now you can see we've created this form. Okay, so once it's not been completed, it would be highlighted in this yellow. Once it gets completed, this highlighted form, this highlights that portion clears up and it becomes plain as this. Okay, so we go to edit. Just trying out something here. Just okay, so once that's done, you can now type in the email address of whoever's going to complete it. So always ask for the email address so that the forms will be sent to the right email address. Okay. So type the email address here, and then you populate the name, and then you click on nominate. It sends the form to whoever is meant to complete it. I hope that was straightforward. So you do that for all your workplace-based assessments. Okay. Now, because I'm not sending this to anyone, I can just go back. So yeah, I hope that was helpful. So let's go back to profile. Let's go to portfolio, activities. Okay, so that there we have a case log. So any activity you log in will come up as a list on the activity list. Okay, now I'll teach you how to write your reflections, how to create your reflection performer. Again, you go to activities, you click on new activity, you can backspace, it brings up reflection, click on reflection, create new activity. Again, you can override this. So if this is linked to your workplace-based assessments or anything, an e-learning you've completed, a CPD event you've attended, or any clinical or non-clinical experience you've had and you want to reflect on, you use the reflection form here under activity. So reflection form, you can again override this. You can have a caption for your reflection. Okay, it makes it easier to locate. Again, your date, and then all that, you fill that in. So this pro forma comes with headings. So describe a notable clinical or non-clinical experience. So whatever it was, if it was a patient encounter you had, you give the context again. No identifiers. It should be anonymized. It should be brief. Uh, okay, a summary of the experience. And then again, you fill in here, what did you learn from the experience? Again, you type that here. I don't know if you've heard of the Gibbs reflective cycle. You can use that to help you write good quality reflections. Okay. So you fill that in. What feedback did you receive from colleagues? Usually, if there is none, because it's a required field, I'd usually type not applicable, else you will not be able to save it. Okay. Because some of the reflections are just personal ones. But if you had a workplace-based assessment and you had a feedback from whoever your assessor was, you can type in here what they said about it, the feedback you got. The next thing is to go on to as a result of this experience, what do you need to learn? So what's the learning going forward? What skills do you need to develop? Okay, and then you can type that. And once you're done, you can just submit it. Okay. Because I've not filled in anything here. But again, I can just for the purpose of this video, just say I've just typed in not applicable, not applicable. Just I'm able to save not applicable, submit. Okay. And there we have it. I've been able to, sorry, just come back. I've been able to create a reflection form. I hope that was straightforward. Okay. Good. As you can see, it's saying that I haven't mapped this to any of the key capabilities. Now I'll talk about mapping a bit later in other videos. Okay. That's something we can look at, mapping activities. Okay, so this is just to show you how to create a reflection form. Let's go to activities again. I'll just refresh the page. Go to activities. So there it is, reflection form. Like I said, you can override this and then create a catchy caption for it. Okay, maybe a reflection on a patient interaction, whatever it is. Okay. Now let's go to new activity again. Let's say so supervision. Okay. So you use this to record your clinical supervision, your educational supervision. Okay. So again, that's the pro forma, your supervision record form. when you had your supervision, fill in the summary of your supervision, what actions came out of your supervision with your clinical supervisor or your educational supervisor. You can just type them here. Afterwards, you hit the submit button. Okay. Some people prefer to have a Word document of all their supervisions. So you can create a long Word document, and you can always attach, if you use this tab here, new attachment, you can attach a file to every form you create. Okay, so you can and then attach it to it. So this could be your supervision record form, start date. Then if there's an attachment you want to include, you can click that here. But it's always best to create a supervision log form just to evidence that you have been having regular supervision. I think as it stands now, you should be having weekly 1 hour supervision with your clinical supervisor or your educational supervisor. This can be arranged. Sometimes you could have a meeting at the beginning of your placement or the middle and then towards the end. That would be arranged or be agreed upon with your educational supervisor. I hope that was helpful. Again, let's go to activities. I have shown you the key role formats to use under activities. So we've demonstrated how to use the reflection form, or to use the case log form for under supervision. Like I said, for COVID-19, it's irrelevant. Now, another trick I found out was that if you want to create any other activity that is not listed here, again, you can override it, okay, and create an activity. So let's say I wanted to attach a form of my emergency log, psychiatry cases I've seen during my own calls, okay, or I wanted to add some certificates of completion of e-learning or CPDs that I've attended, and I want to map them. I can write what's here and just type in here, maybe let's say emergency psychiatry cases, and then I create a new activity. Again, that pro forma comes here. So now it changes it, okay, because it's not a specific, it's not one of the key pro formas on the list. You can see here that you've only got content here. Again, you can just put in a summary of whatever you want to put here. I have attended CPD or mandatory training on safeguarding. Just 1, 2, 3 lines attached to this, and then you can write attached to this form as my certificate of completion of this mandatory training. And then you can go to the attachments here, click on new attachments, choose your file, upload your certificates or your log of emergency cases that you have. This is just a description of what you've created here, what you've entered here, and then attach your file and then you submit it. So that's very, very helpful. I hope that's been good. One last thing about the activity tab here. Now, for things like case log, you cannot directly map them to any of your key capabilities. Okay, you cannot log case logs. You cannot map case logs to key capabilities. The system isn't designed for that to happen. I think the reason being that you need to evidence what you do. Okay, so the only way is to link it to a workplace-based assessment or override it like I did in the previous just before I logged in. I created this activity. You can override it and then fill in the content bit and put an attachment or add an attachment to it. Otherwise, you cannot map any case log. I'll demonstrate that to you in a bit. So let's say, so this is a case log form that we filled, psychosis. But as you can see, there's nothing here to show that I can map this. Okay. Okay. Thanks for joining me today. So today's session, we've gone through how to create your activity and also how to create your assessment forms. This is another way of creating your assessment forms. You go to assessment, you go to new assessment, select assessment type. There we go. So that's another way of creating your assessment form. Okay. So let's just show you that. So let's say you want to create an ACE, click on that, create an assessment. Again, you link it to a clinical experience. So at this point, you'd have created a case log, so you can search for it. If you haven't, you can go to create new here, create new. But once you create new, it comes up, select a clinical experience pro forma. So that's a case log. You select case log, and then you fill that in. So there's two ways of going about it. You can either, first of all, go to activities and create a case log. Okay. Create a case log, which we did here. And then you go to a new follow-up, create an assessment to create the assessment form. Or you go to assessment, click on create new assessment, select the type of assessment, so say midi-ACE, create assessment. So you've got it here, link a clinical experience activity. So you create a new one, select clinical experience, you go to case log, and you fill those details in. And afterwards, once you fill in the required, so if it was a case of bipolar, you saw the ICD-10 code there. Sometimes your supervisor can fill this form for you first and send it over to you, and then you can link the rest up. Okay. And then, like I'd shown earlier, once you've filled in the specific areas, it will come up as you find a submit button down below, you submit, and then you can nominate who's going to assess you or who's going to fill this form, type in their email address, and send a notification for them to complete it. I hope that's been useful. Thank you for joining me. Look out for our next videos where I will be talking about how to map your workplace-based assessments to your key capabilities and HLOs. Thank you. See you later.
Plus.